really there's beauty in everybody.
Yeah.
You know, especially in the pieces of people that make them unique. That to me is what is most beautiful.
4, 3, 2, 1.
All right.
Hi, Melody.
Yeah.
Welcome to Vibrant Vienna. So how long have you been doing photography?
So I was actually in college. I'm one of the rare people that studied it. I started out as a pre-med chemistry major, and a friend said I should take a photography class because I was spending so much time like photographing spiders and sunsets with my little point and shoot. And I did, and it was all downhill from there. 3 years later, I moved across the country, switched schools, threw away the chemistry degree, even though I had two classes left, and decided to study fine art photography at the Corcoran. And I started my business that year. So going on, I guess my first paid client was about 14 years ago.
Okay.
Uh, and I opened the studio on Church Street um, just about a year, a little over a year was our grand opening.
Wow.
And I had space in Tyson's before then, but even the 3 miles to Tyson's got to be a little too much. And I really wanted a place with a little more character, and that's Church Street has that in space. So
Yeah, that's awesome. So you said Corcoran?
yeah, I studied at the Corcoran. hmm
Okay, which that's in New York City.
No,
No.
no, no, that's in DC. It's the oldest private museum in DC.
Okay.
And it when I attended was a museum college partnership. So they have the Corcoran Museum where you can go and view different pieces of art. They actually had my favorite piece of artwork I've ever seen. It's a statue, a sculpture done in marble, and it's a veiled woman, and it looks like fabric. Like that's how incredible this artist was.
Yeah.
But not to get sidetracked, but they had in the basement a fine art college, and it was really incredible setting there. It was mostly about art concepts and sculpture and learning to use mediums. A little bit less about photography because I'd already taken 3 years of photography classes at my other university.
Oh, really?
Um, yeah, and I would, for anybody who's going into photography, I would recommend probably studying marketing or business, but having a nice solid foundation in art is useful, definitely.
Cool. I see the photos in the background. Some of
Oh
them.
yeah.
Is that your family?
These,
I assume that's your family.
yeah, these are mine. That's my big family right there.
What beach did you take those at?
I think those are Virginia Beach. I don't know. I am the person that forces my children to wake up for the sunrise at the beach
Me
so
too.
that we can get some beautiful pictures. Really, that's what it's about. But then we always stay for like the next hour and there's nobody there. So even if we go to like Ocean City where it's really crowded, we get to enjoy the beach with not as many people. I always come back and when I put pictures up, people are like, "How did you get no people on the beach?" You get up at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. That's the secret. Where
Yeah.
there's like one jogger. Yeah.
Yeah.
So okay, so you mentioned um business being, you recommended business classes as part of um a program,
Yes.
perhaps undergrad folks in
hmm
photography.
I think this is actually one of the major disservices that fine art institutions do to their students is that you're setting them up to be a starving artist. I often say that I am an entrepreneur first and I am an artist second. My camera is what I use to build a business, and it is. Because if you shift your mindset, then you understand that you're not doing it as a hobby, you're not doing it for pocket money. You lay the groundwork for a good, solid business. You're paying your taxes, you're getting your permits, and then you're not taken aback in a couple of years when you suddenly do file your taxes and you realize how little money you made. So, I mean, I think you have to set up a really strong business structure first, or you don't end up with a space on Church Street, because it doesn't come cheap. It's not something that you do on a whim.
And that really um, kind of triggers a question, which is how are you making it right now with the current challenge?
Yeah. So I'm lucky where businesses have a lot more overhead than I do, like restaurants, even bookstores, on top of having a lease, they have a lot more employees than I do. We have a small staff, um, and I am, the main driver since it's Melody Yazdani Studios, and I'm the sole photographer at this time. So all I have to do is cover my overhead, and then I can cut my salary down as long as I'm still paying for my payroll. Then I'm fine, you know. And we did a fundraiser to help raise money for junior businesses, and we're able to raise almost $3,000, which should cover a small business's payroll for a month. Some businesses too, so that really helps, give back where we can. So we're doing okay, thankfully. And I know that the SBA stuff kind of got a rocky start, but I also know that I do qualify for some of those loans. So if I need to take them, that's an outlet that we have.
Yeah.
I'm one of the fortunate ones, definitely, and I'm grateful for it.
So you're still doing photography at the studio?
No, I haven't actually shot a session since the weekend that the stay-at-home order was announced, or the weekend schools closed, was my last shoot. Um, Photographers are in this kind of nebulous gray area where we technically can work in the state of Virginia. Throughout this entire time, we've been able to work with certain limitations. Obviously, we can't do newborn sessions where our hands are on babies and we're getting up close and personal. But I did one session and just maintained a distance. And I did photograph a prom on the porch of one of the girls that I've been photographing since she was 12 years old, is now a senior. So her mom arranged some lights on their porch and had the boyfriend over, and they played some music and did a first dance, and it was really sweet and special. So I get to document that. But aside from that, I'm actually not shooting right now. So it's just been couple of clients from previous sessions that were waiting to see images, so we did that virtually. We have the 25 people that donated right now that need to be on the books, in addition to sessions that we had to reschedule just to put people's minds at ease, essentially. Once we are in phase one, once we're allowed to be in phase one, then we will be offering backyard sessions, where basically I'm shooting with a really long lens. So people that have worked with me know that I'm never up in like close and personal and in people's faces anyway, because it makes everybody very uncomfortable to have a camera in their face. So typically I would be shooting at least 10 feet away, if not 20, 25 feet away for a family session. So we'll start doing those outside at a distance once we get into phase one. And then when we're allowed to get a little bit closer and offer hair and makeup services again, because that is something that we do at the studio, then we will start booking in studio again.
How do you handle a customer that doesn't care about budget, but doesn't understand what you do?
How do I handle people that don't see the value in what I offer?
Well, no, it's they want a photographer and
Mm-hmm.
they're great with your pricing, but
Mm-hmm.
then as you might move along in the relationship, the customer relationship,
Mm-hmm.
you discover that they're kind of looking for something that's different from what you provide.
I understand the question. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Did I,
I'm not the right.
did I ask it in a
Yeah.
good way?
Yeah. I think it's actually a really good question. And again, it comes down to, for me, how long I've been established. That I am fortunate enough to have a bit of a following in this area. I've photographed thousands of people at this point. Someday I'll have to figure out exactly how many, but it's thousands, and I have families that come back to me every single year. So, if somebody does come to me and they want a photographer, but they want somebody to come photograph their birthday party, I will just tell them it's not something I do, because I don't photograph events. I don't photograph weddings. My heart is not in it, so I wouldn't be able to give them something that was worth what I charge for it. If somebody came to me and wanted a portrait, but it was very clear that we just weren't on the same wavelength,
Yeah.
then when I understood that we're not on the same wavelength, I would probably try to send them to a colleague of mine that I thought would better serve them.
Right.
And the process for working with our studio is we do require a bit of time before we shoot, because I have to know the people that I'm photographing. So there's a consultation. I'm going to help them prepare. We're going to discuss in depth how we're going to portray them. If it's a professional headshot, it's not that I'm going to put them against a blue background and have them cross their arms and say cheese. I need to know why I'm providing these portraits, what we're portraying, what we want to say and don't want to say. So I will learn in the course of that consultation whether we're a good fit or not. If I haven't already learned that on the phone when we're chatting beforehand.
Right.
And then if we're not a good fit, then I definitely will send them to a colleague that is a better fit for them. Because it is an art, and there are people that want a crazy street photography style shoot, which is not really something that I do. My sister, who is a photographer, would do an amazing job with something like that, and I would probably send them to her. But if they want like a legacy portrait where they look incredible, they're the most beautiful they've ever been in their lives, that's really my specialty, and that's what I'm going to do for them. Or a professional headshot where they need to portray something very specific. That's what I'm going to give them.
The customer is always right, but
Well, if your clients value and understand your authority in your field and in your industry, I think you experience that much less. Um, and I've had in the past, it hasn't happened in a very, very long time. I've had people say, oh, I only want to be photographed from this side, or I only want to stand in this specific way. But that was before I had built the credibility, before they understood how much experience I bring to the table. And I explained to people in their consultation, the process of working with me is going to feel super weird and super awkward, because I am going to pose you. I am going to make sure that you look amazing, but that is not intuitive. There's a reason models are paid the way that they are, because they understand how to create shapes with their body, and the average person doesn't. And it doesn't feel normal or natural. And you may be sore the next day because of this whole process. So we explain that, we get that out of the way. And then by the end of that experience, usually they are telling their friends about what a crazy experience it was, but oh my God, I looked amazing. And that's not the experience where you go to a photographer and they say, okay, what do you want to do? And then the ball's in your court to figure out what you look like in front of the lens, which is not something any photographer should be doing to you. They should know how to pose you and give you action, whatever the case is. But it's just a matter of building authority with your clients before they walk through that door, especially, if you are tasked as a website builder to put their image out there to the world. That's a big task, right? And they have to look professional. It has to be well built, and maybe they have some ideas in mind, but I think in that case I would try to dissuade them. And if they really were stuck on it and they thought that they were more of an authority in that area, I would probably send them to somebody else.
right.
And if someone comes to me with a Pinterest board full of images, which may occasionally happen because Pinterest is a big thing and they see something fun and they want to do that, then I do explain that was work somebody else created from their viewpoint with those people. You are not those people, and I'm not that photographer. So we can use a feeling or what that evokes, but we will never copy anybody else's work, because you're not going to get the same result, and it'll just be some stale knockoff, and that's not why you come.
Right.
So that's a long way of answering that question.
Oh, no,
I think.
I'm really glad you went deep into it. That's really the purpose of doing the long form interview, so that it can really shed light on in more detail about what the experience is.
When I'm shooting, so it's funny, I'm putting together a course right now to put out there for people that want to learn photography, whether it's with their phone or a film camera or a DSLR mirrorless. We'll cover those basics. And I sat down to start writing it. I thought that I would write the content, and I realized that even in understanding what your camera is seeing, I wrote 6 pages and I hadn't even covered a tenth of it yet. So when you start to break down the processes that you've been doing for 13 years, and why you're making the split second decisions in the way that you do, it's so much information, and you don't think about it while you're doing it, because it is, for me, it's second nature. I can point my camera outside right now and I will just kind of spitball the settings. I shoot on manual. I will put some approximate settings, put it up, and 9 times out of 10, I'm right exactly where I want to be, because I've just been doing it for so long. But when I start to write down, okay, I made this decision because of this, and then that affected this decision, it all comes down to a really solid understanding of what my equipment is doing and how the light is reflecting off of the surfaces that I'm shooting. And that's not even putting a human into the equation. Then there are a million other decisions when you do.
Blinking. Yeah.
Or just getting people comfortable in front of a camera, because most adults have the reflex, unless they've been in front of a camera many, many times, that as soon as it is pointed, they just really tense up.
Yeah.
And you have to reprogram them. And I do it too. If somebody points a camera at me, I get uncomfortable.
Right.
So it's a whole nother skill set to be able to make people comfortable and relaxed, and get them to, and that, I think, is the second layer. You learn how to be a technical photographer, and then you learn how to be an artistic photographer, or maybe it's a third layer. We're going third.
Sure. Yeah.
That people portion, how to relate. And that's why kids are so easy to photograph, because they are not concerned about any of this.
Yeah.
No.
They are them.
Yeah, it's not until you get to like 9, 10, and I photograph a lot of families, and I photograph these kids every year. I get to watch them grow up, which is one of like the biggest perks of my job. But you see it as they evolve, that they're just super carefree, and you get the best expressions, and you get their true personality, and then as they get older, they slowly shut down a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. You have to draw it out of them. By the time they're teenagers, it's a whole nother ball game. A 2-year-old is full display. A teenager is completely shut down inside, and it's an interesting process to get them to open up in front of a camera.
Yeah. So you say equipment. What equipment do you use? What?
Well, I use a mirrorless for my main camera. I have a bevy of cameras. I started on film, and my heart, I think, is still with film. It's just not cost effective to do it professionally, and I don't have a dark room, so I don't have full control. But my main body is a Nikon Z7, and I do love it. It's amazing. It's a work of art in itself. And I can shoot video and photo with that camera. And then I have 3 Nikon DFs. I don't know if you've heard of this camera.
Maybe.
It's a DSLR, but it was developed by Nikon to look and feel like a film camera, which is why I have 3 of them. But you pick it up and it has just it doesn't feel like a digital camera. It has the solidness of a body that was built in the 70s. And it was just like, when I picked it up for the first time, it was like going back home, basically, because I learned to shoot on the camera. Yeah. But now they sit in the studio as beautiful, expensive paperweights, more or less. Yeah. And then I do have a Hasselblad, but it also sits there as a really nice, expensive paperweight. And I have my own vintage film cameras that are sitting there too. Maybe I'll pick them up someday. I have some expired film somewhere, so I can put them through them.
So what was your journey in discovering that portrait photography is what you wanted to do? How did you discover that?
it was pretty instantaneous when I picked up a camera. So the reason that I got into photography, which this story makes a lot of people laugh, it was before cell phones had these front-facing cameras, right? Um, and I was fortunate enough to go on a full ride scholarship to my state university, and they gave me a pretty generous stipend as well. So with the stipend, I went and bought a point and shoot camera, a little Nikon. It was a Nikon Coolpix 2500 or something. The reason I bought this camera, and I kid you not, is because the lens turned backwards, so you could take selfies. And I took it to all the parties, and we would, in college, we would do our cheesy selfies. But then I started photographing people with it too, like all of my dorm friends. And I took a photography class, and I have all of these printed portraits of all of my neighbors in my dorm and my roommates, because I would put a bed sheet on the wall in my dorm room, and I would pull out like just a little desk lamp, and I would photograph all of these people on this black and white film, and I would go develop it. And I spent hours and hours and hours in the dark room. And it really quickly became apparent that to me, it was not just the format of photography or creating something or capturing something. It was the people that are fascinating to me. And it still is. I can't photograph a landscape to save my life. I can support my family with my photography income, but I cannot, if you ask me to photograph this product, it doesn't interest me whatsoever, and I don't ever want to do it. It's the people, the faces, the emotion, it's life. And it's while those landscapes are important in the long term, if you see an Ansel Adams print, it's beautiful and it's a work of art. Or a picture of the town of Vienna from the 70s and how much has changed. Obviously, that is important. But to me, there's so much more importance in telling a person's story and creating a legacy that they're giving to their grandchildren and to their great grandchildren. That is why I do what I do. And the weight of it hits when somebody passes away. We do it now because it's fun and it's beautiful and we want it on the wall. But when somebody passes and that is all that you have left, that's when it's the satisfaction of my work, and it's really obviously bittersweet because somebody's passed, but that's when you really recognize the importance of photography and why we take all of these pictures and we obsessively photograph our lives and take selfies.
Yeah.
That's really my life's work, is just to provide histories for people.
Yeah. It's really interesting, because I think uh, people often say like, well, everybody's always in front of their cameras and they're not experiencing life. But really, if it wasn't valuable, people wouldn't do it.
Yes.
There's a reason why people are trying to capture moments, right? And I agree. Sometimes, we need to put it down and be in the moment. And I've even said sometimes, when I'm tempted to pick up my phone, and I'll go, you know what, this one's just for the brain, and I'll just
Hmm.
have to recall it through memory. Um, but um, the idea that the idea that you have that point of reference, and when you look at a photograph, you're never just looking at the photo. It's almost like music, because I'm a musician as well.
Hmm.
Music has the same quality, and really art, a lot of different arts have this, but when you look at it, you're not just looking and you're not just remembering that snapshot in time, but you're remembering where you were and the circumstances and the other people involved and the person behind the camera, and like for the
That moment a little bit.
what's that?
You get to relive that moment a little bit.
Yeah, like when when you like listen to a song that's nostalgic, and it's like it just
Hmm.
brings you back, or you smell a smell and it's like,
Yes.
oh
Yeah.
man, it just brings you right back. So um
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and this is the one thing that I've tried to, in my own way, fight against with social media, right?
mm,
Is that some of social media, not everything, but some of it is not genuine. And it really is just that it's created to share with other people. And I'm the opposite photographer for that. Like a lot of what I do isn't ever shared on social media for my clients, or even my clients may not share it because it wasn't created for that purpose. It was created specifically for them. And sometimes I feel like it's too sweet to put out there, right?
Yeah.
So I
I
hope that's
get it. I totally agree. Yeah, I mean, these are just exquisite. And I see them and they pop up in my feed. Hey, look, William, who's this? You remember him? Mateo?
Oh.
Yeah, remember? What does he do? He helps kids fight cancer, right? Yeah, remember him?
And now the restaurant.
He's a hero. Does that photo look heroic?
No.
No, it doesn't look heroic. What does it look like?
Well, I don't really know.
What kind of feeling does that photo give you?
I don't know.
Strong?
No.
No, not really strong.
Yeah.
Just kind of nice?
Well, I don't
You're
know.
not sure? All right, we can think about it.
It doesn't really look like him.
It doesn't. Yeah, he was on the Skype call, so it doesn't.
well, it's a little different on the Skype call, just a little bit.
Yeah. What's that?
He looks like littler.
He looks littler in this picture, or on the Skype call?
No, he looks more little.
In the Skype call?
No.
In here?
Yeah.
We're in that photo? Oh, okay. That's a week ago. I don't know.
No, that was a year ago, though.
Oh, well, there you go.
Oh, he was. That is an astute observation.
William knows. He knows some things. Yeah, I mean, look, these are just beautiful. Really, really
Thank
beautiful. And when they pop up in my feed, I need to scroll through and just heart every single one. As soon as I see them, they're really, they're definitely you. Like your signature is on those. Yeah, they just they're just beautiful. There's really no other word for it. They're just really, really gorgeous and gorgeous people too. I'm sure that you get to work with and photograph as well.
Yeah, everybody is, though. Everybody is beautiful.
Yeah, I love the
Well,
photograph.
there's mom in that video. She's an older woman. She's in her late 60s, or early 70s. And when she saw her portraits, she commented that she had never in her life felt beautiful. We are so used to seeing bad photos of ourselves. That's really what it is. You know, that I've had women break down in tears when they see portraits of them because they just had never seen themselves that way. But there's beauty in everybody.
Yeah.
You know, especially in the pieces of people that make them unique. That to me is what is most beautiful.
Yes. Yeah, it's our imperfections that are actually beautiful, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I love this picture.
Which one?
Your husband's face is great.
Oh.
I love it. Now, I don't know your kids' names, but is your youngest there? Was she? Is that
Anya?
real?
Oh yeah, it's real. So okay, so I wanted to create a real portrait this year, which is why we have a bottle of wine and the kids are not wearing fancy clothes. We do have a formal portrait with everybody in fancy dresses, but in that moment, my 13-year-old daughter had just accidentally, not on purpose, accidentally dropped her cell phone onto the 3-year-old. And it's like, let's take this. This is real life. This is what it is. This is the way it actually happened. So, you know, that's the thing is that, wanted reality. I think reality is so beautiful because I have a 13-year-old and I have a 3-year-old, so I get to see the different stages of their childhood, and it's in my face how quickly it goes, and it's just every moment of it is so beautiful. You
Yeah.
know, you
Yeah.
don't realize when you have young kids because it's going by so fast, but those are the best years of your life.
I know. I know. I
You
know.
savor it.
I do. I do. I try to soak it all in, and it's always tempting. Well, let's just make another one. That'll run out eventually.
Well,
Um,
clearly, I did.
yeah. Um, but yeah, I know what you mean. But every stage of their growth and development is beautiful in its own little way. Although I'm sure parents out there who are listening who have teenagers are like, just you wait.
Well, I get to experience the teenager with my older two. They definitely have their teenage moments for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. That's
where with the younger ones, it's physically exhausting, right? The
right.
older ones is mentally and emotionally
Yeah,
exhausting. That's the difference. It's not
got
that
it.
you're tired from picking up a baby all day, but it
But
definitely has its own weight,
right, it's different.
It's gonna
That's it.
pass.
Yeah, yeah, I got it.
But
Cool. Thanks for sharing that with us and telling us a bit about your family. Um, that's really special.
it's they're why I do what I do,
Yeah,
the
that's
driving
cool.
force behind everything.
So have you lived in where did you grow up?
I bounced around. I was actually born in Virginia, lived in Delaware, Florida, then Arkansas, and went to college in Arkansas before coming back to this area to go to the Corcoran, and then I stayed. And I
Oh,
love this area. I don't think there's any place I'd rather be.
really?
Yeah, my kids are like, can we move to the beach? Can we move to, what is it, the Outer Banks? Can we move to the beach? They're crying about moving to the Outer Banks. And I'm just like, I really like it here. Aside from the traffic, we have all these museums and we have this culture. Yeah, it's beautiful. We have all the seasons.
Yeah, that is one thing I do like about this area. Like you said, there's stuff going on, and it's a little bit
It's a
busier than
beautiful here. You're not
what's
as
that?
like, it's a mix. You're not as on top of each other as you are in New York, and DC to me is much cleaner.
Yeah,
I can take New York in very small increments. Weekends,
yeah,
maybe a week. Maybe I could take a week, but like I need like the clean air, the not dirty sidewalks. But
yeah,
I got to be able to garden, and Virginia is just so wonderful for it.
yeah,
Although maybe we'll retire to Ithaca. That's the plan.
yeah. Upstate New York is beautiful. It's
It
beautiful.
really is cold but beautiful.
Yeah, my
So
brother has a house up a little bit upstate. Anyway, we digress.
yeah.
Um, well, it was really cool. We should talk again, and we should once all of this blows over, and that's my plan with everybody that I'm meeting with on Skype, is to get these videos out on the site on Vibrant Vienna, but to sync back up and you can show us around the studio, and hopefully
Oh
Dave
yeah.
will bring his camera and videotape, and we can actually kind of see where, if you're open to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my studio, it's a beautiful space. It really is.